All right, ladies and gentlemen, graphic designers, we're going to do Photoshop Lesson 2. We're going to learn about basic photo corrections. So the idea of this lesson is that you're making a magazine layout, and you're going to use a picture in the magazine, and it has to be 2 inches by 3 inches. Why don't you take these notes real quick? Let's just get this over and done with. No, don't do it yet. Here, let's do this. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do Lesson 2. And we're going to make this picture, we're going to edit it to look like this. Okay, so make sure you kind of fill this out. All right, let's get started with some Photoshop. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to crop this thing. So for whatever reason, we got this crummy scan picture, and we got to crop it, and we want it 2 inches by 3 inches. So we're going to click on the crop tool. We're going to type in type 3. That's going to kind of force it to be 2 by 3, and then we're going to kind of click and drag, and then we're going to rotate this thing to fit. Okay, and we're going to drag it over here, and we're going to drag it over here like this. Okay, and once we get it right where we want it, and we're going to hit, oh, I didn't quite get it. I missed this spot. Let's scooch it over a little bit. I'm using the arrow keys. I'm going to hit the enter key on the keyboard. Boom. Okay, so now if we go image and we go to image size, we can see that it's pretty, oh no, it's exactly 2 by 3. So it took this thing and made it 2 by 3, which is the exact size we need for our magazine. Okay? All right, so the next thing that we're going to want to do is, let's see. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to want to do is adjust the tonal range. Go create a new fill or adjustment layer and change the levels. Okay, so let's actually look at our thing. The tonal range is, write this down. The tonal range is the amount of contrast or detail in the image. The range, so it's going to look at the picture and it's going to find the darkest pixel to the lightest pixel. Okay, and you're going to see that there's some problems with this particular picture. So let's take a look at what we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to go over here. We're going to make an adjustment layer, and we're going to go to levels. Okay, and you can see, so here's like the darkest pixel, here's the lightest pixel, and you can see there's all this blank stuff. So when they took the picture, they didn't have a good exposure, that it wasn't really a good picture, and so it's not as vibrant as it should be. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this over here to where it's like that, and then there's some color here, but not much. So we're going to grab this and adjust it there. Okay, and so the picture looks a lot nicer. Now, this was non-destructive editing because look, this is just a adjustment layer, so we can see it looks better with it, but we didn't change any pixels. Okay, all right. So do that. So the next thing that we're going to do is remove the color cast by, what are we going to do? By using a color balance adjustment layer. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint though. Okay, so a color cast is an imbalance of colors or too much of one color. So if we go back to this thing, you can see that it's kind of, it looks a little bit on the purple side. So a little bit too much purple. So we're going to do a color balance. So we're going to click here. Actually, make sure we're on this. So hey, we're going to adjust this. By the way, sometimes it messes you up if that thing's locked. So we're going to unlock it. Okay, so we're going to do a color balance adjustment. So go to color balance, and we're going to play around with it so we can go. You can see that it had a little bit too much red in it. I like that a little bit. Let's play around with this. Probably want to go a little bit more on the green side, and then I think it was kind of fine where it was with the blue. Anyway, so that's the color balance. Let's see if that looks good overall. Yeah, I think it looks better with a change of the color balance. All right, let's go back to the scoring guide. Okay, so we're going to replace the color of the tulip in the bottom left from yellow to red. All right, so let's figure out what we want to do. So we don't want to, let's see, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the quick selection tool, and actually the first thing we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on that tulip. Okay, so then we're going to go to the quick selection tool, and we're going to select it. Now, it looks like it got everything, but we probably actually want to select a little bit more. So we're going to go select, and we're going to refine the edge a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to feather the edge, and I want to select a little bit more. Yeah, so I get that much. Okay, and then click OK. So we got a little bit more than we had before. So we selected the tulip, refine the edge, And so now we're going to do a color balance. Now, everything we've done up to this point has been to the whole picture, but because I selected just the tulip, this is only going to affect the tulip. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to hue and saturation. Now notice this one's a little bit different. So if we look over here, this one has a mask, and see that little white thing? That's basically saying, hey, I'm not doing anything to this area in black, but we're just working on the tulip. Okay, so on this, I'm going to mess around with the hue until we get the color we want, and we kind of wanted more of a red color, so like that. We can adjust the saturation, which is basically how pure the color is, so make it a little bit of a brighter red, and we can adjust the darkness or the lightness or whatever till we like it. Okay, so we like that. I'm going to double click on the hand so we can see the whole picture, so you can see that we've changed that. And again, it's non-destructive, so we can get it back to how it was if we wanted. Okay, so let's take a look at our scoring guide. We want to adjust the lightness of the statue with the dodge tool. Now, so this goes back to like old photography. These were tools that photographers used when they actually used film, and they were in a darkroom using these tools. And so they still have them. The only problem with these tools is that these are destructive. These will actually change the picture permanently. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the dodge tool. Okay, and let's figure out, we got some settings we want to do on this thing, so let's take a look at it. All right, so select a 27 pixel feathered brush. We're going to choose highlights and set the exposure to 15%. Let's see if we can figure that all out. So we want to, again, we're going to go to the dodge tool. We're going to choose highlights. The exposure, that's too much. That's going to really change it. So we're going to go to the exposure like that. And then we're going to choose a brush we like. Probably not that hard, probably a little bit more feathered, and probably not that big. So we can choose whatever brush you want. But at any rate, so if you do that, oh, by the way, and we have all this stuff here, whichever layer I've clicked on, that's the layer we're going to be messing with. So we want to do the original layer. And again, probably don't want to do this too much, but if we go through that, we can line. If you're positive that you like it, if you notice, you can see that it's lightening stuff up. Okay, and if you don't like it, you can press Control-Alt-Z and go back. But anyway, I'm going to do it again. So we're going to use the dodge tool. We're going to lighten up some of the highlights. Okay, so you can use other tools as well. You can use the burn tool. The burn tool will make things darker. So if you do that, you can make things darker with the burn tool. But we're not going to do that. We're just using the dodge tool. All right, the other tool that we're going to use is we're going to use the sponge tool, and we're going to use it to saturate. So anything I go over brightens it up. Okay, so you can see I can brighten the stuff up a little bit. Okay, so you can do it how you want. That's a little bit blown out. It's too much. Okay, but you can play around with it. So we probably have because the flow rate's way too high. And probably use a softer brush. All right, so we can do that and brighten things up. But again, we can't, if we go on to stuff, we can't undo it anymore. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at our thing. So we've adjusted the saturation of the flowers and leaves with the sponge tool. Now we're going to save it as a PNG. Okay, this is a Photoshop file. We could not put this in a magazine. So we're going to save it okay, and make sure that we save the Photoshop file. So we're going to save the Photoshop file in the folder with our name on it. We're going to save it in the Creative Computers folder. We're going to save it in a folder called Raster Design Photoshop, and we're going to save it in the Photoshop Lessons. Okay, but we're also going to save it in a format. You couldn't put this on the web or anything like that because it's a Photoshop document, but what we're going to do is we're going to go File, Save for Web and Devices, and so we're going to save it as a GIF or a JPEG or a PNG. Okay, so these are things that we could actually put on the web, and then we're going to save that. And we're going to save that, same thing, we're going to save it in our folder with our name on it. We're going to save it in Creative Computers. We're going to save it in Raster Design Photoshop, Photoshop Lessons, and we're going to save it. Okay, and that's it. So make sure you fill out the scoring guide. And let's see. Oh yeah, we changed the saturation with the sponge tool. Make sure you write that note down. And all right, that's it. Go ahead and turn that guy in.